Hello and welcome back to the Khaki on Dayquil show. Today we're doing a chatty get ready with me, as I always do. I took questions from y'all on Instagram, so excited to see what y'all want to talk about today. We have some new stuff to try that I need to share with y'all. A bunch of new stuff from Rare Beauty. I have this blush duo from LH Cosmetics. Honestly, everything that we're using today makes such a pretty little color story. And one of the things that I think I'm kind of going to be demoing today is that color contrast story that I've been talking about or alluding to a lot lately, where it's like I like to focus on peachy things on my skin, especially going into springtime, and wearing something blue and like having that healthy color sort of pop on my face as a result of that contrast. By the way, this scarf, whenever Kiki of Salt, New York sends me PR, she always wraps it up in a scarf that she has picked out someplace for me, like a vintage scarf. And this is one of them. And it is just like the best color story, not just for my skin tone, but also for this particular makeup look, I hope. I haven't done this one like all together yet. But yeah, we're gonna be focusing on that as the main thing that we're aiming for. And let's go ahead and jump in. So happy Friday the 13th. In real time, in my life, currently. I'm gonna put my hair back. I'm gonna put my hair back here. Oh, that. That is not just a vibe, that is the vibe. Something that I have been doing lately is using the Chanel Sublimage. You're like, duh. The Chanel Sublimage Le Correcteur Gueux, the eye concealer, as just my only complexion product. So you just saw me spray a little bit of the Eau de Beauté, we're just learning French over here, from Caudalie to give my skin a little bit of life, just a little bit of life. And then I'm gonna go straight in with this on a concealer brush because it's like the perfect shade for me for like a concealer match. It's the shade 10. It works just from the cap. And this is silicone free. I don't even know why they made that choice. Like, it's not necessarily something that they advertise. It's just a really cool thing that, you know, this is basically a really like, doesn't have any fragrance. Like, it's a very, you know, clean, beauty friendly kind of formulation that works flawlessly. Flawlessly. It's like a very, very sophisticated, somewhere in between a Glossier Stretch Concealer and, you know, Kosas, right? Like, I know those are pretty disparate, but it is. It's like right between that. It's gonna give you skin finish and it's gonna give you that kind of stretch coverage that blurs and blends and looks like skin. Like, look at that. It just looks like skin, but actually has like staying power. You know, it's like got long wearing capabilities and it really like sets down. You know, it's got some technology to it. And I just love it because it's like, even though I'm not having the best skin day today, it is something I can wear selectively and still feel really, really beautiful because it blends so easily into my skin. It kind of behaves like the Thrive concealer in that sense, where it's just, I mean, once you've got it on, it just really like disappears. It does its job and then it doesn't really get in the way of anything else. I've applied this with my fingers, you know, in like a car mirror kind of thing. It's a very, very agreeable formula, and it's something that kind of shrinks into the background when I use it with my Sublimage Le Temps foundation because, you know, they're both fantastic. And I talk about that foundation a lot and it kind of, you know, holds its own. The foundation does. And so, you know, you don't necessarily notice how great the concealer is as well, but I'm very glad that I got the concealer too. And I think one of the things that I don't often mention with my, you know, in the same breath as like my passion for these two particular products, both of the Sublimage products, is how, okay, so I talk about sometimes if I wear a foundation that I like, but I wear it too many days in a row, it'll start to kind of degrade the overall appearance of my skin because it'll be something that is like too satin finish or too whatever, you know? And for whatever reason, this improves my skin when I wear it day after day after day. I really notice a positive snowball effect from wearing this foundation day on day on day. And that could be entirely personal, but you know, by contrast, the Fenty Eavesdrop is so beautiful, so photographable. I highly recommend it. But if you have combo skin, it's probably going to keep your skin pretty balanced. But as someone with really dry skin, it does eventually wear out my moisture barrier. And I can't wear it every single day for that reason. So this is one that I can wear every single day, and knowing that about it is like a very valuable thing, because like I can recommend this to someone with dry skin knowing that it could be your only complexion duo, you know, your only products. And really like what I have now is, you know, mostly my skin showing through. It's a lovely skin finish. I'm not even sure it's like blended perfectly. It doesn't really matter, you know? I don't know, man. That's worth my money all day long. So next, I'm gonna go in with the Rare Beauty bronzer, because this is going to be a very Rare Beauty heavy look. They sent me some new stuff. So one of the things I'm really excited to use today is actually this like matte whipped lip situation. It's so gorgeous, and it's something that's a little bit outside of my typical wheelhouse, because I don't usually go for a matte lip, but you just gotta see the color. It's so subtle. So this is Power Boost in the Warm Wishes bronzer. And you don't have to put on as much because, you know, I don't have as much complexion product on, so I'm not like fighting against a really blanked out look. It's very, very quick. And I think I meant to start with the brightener. Brightener is not something that I usually have in my routine, so I think I kind of, you know, didn't put it in order properly, but we're gonna use it anyway. So this is the new, it's just under eye brightener. It has a name. All of them do. I think that this one is Positive Light. I'm not sure. They all have like very optimistic sounding, you know, quippy names, but this is this metal tip applicator. There we go. And it's cooling. It doesn't soak up any product, which makes it a little bit weird to apply because, you know, once it's gone off the applicator, it's gone. So that's a little bit strange, but I also understand the appeal of the cooling nature of that metal applicator. Let's look at a question. I'm also gonna try and cover that little thing on my forehead with it. We'll see. We'll see how far we get. Oh, come on, Aaron. My friend Aaron Dio said favorite fart. Anyone that comes out of Simon's butt. Hi, how do you remain inspired for your art, etc.? It's so hard to be consistent. Love your work. When I lived in Amsterdam, when I was studying abroad, when I was like 20, I remember walking down the street with a friend of mine, and he was a graduate student, but it was that much more relevant for him to be trying to focus on like a creative mindset at all times. And so I remember I would be like talking to him, probably being my obnoxious 20-year-old self at that time. And I was like, you know, what's going on? Where are you right now? Like, cause he just wasn't paying any attention to what I was saying. And he's like, you know, my professor told me to try to let everything inspire me with like a really open mind. Like try to not judge the thoughts as they come through and things like that. And when you do that, you start to kind of read everything as inspiration. And I think that there are a lot of urges that we have that we don't realize are inspiration for, like creativity and things like that. We just don't know where to put them. So a lot of times I'm inspired by other people's art or other people's fashion or things like that. And like I end up channeling that into comparison or jealousy or being attracted to someone or something like that. And what a lot of times the best use of those feelings is to, you know, channel it into your creative efforts. And I think that it's really important for your creative efforts to be something that you enjoy so that it doesn't feel like constipation where you have all of these ideas but you actually dread the putting them on the page part, metaphorically. It doesn't have to be a page, but I think something huge too is understanding and like observing and being actually really non-judgmental but also really perceptive of the kinds of things that you are inviting into your psyche. I'm gonna use a little bit of the contour here from Salt, New York. This is just the perfect look for it right now. So when you think that you're kind of absorbing media in a passive way, like you're dissociating, right? I think that a lot of times that's when we allow in things that like we don't realize are having a lot more influence on us than when we're very intentionally trying to look for inspiration. And you can it's a very easy thing to start kind of curating your brain's diet in that sense of trying not to ingest a whole bunch of like jealousy junk food and a bunch of consumption junk food and a bunch of inadequacy, comparison, junk food kind of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with junk food in your real life. I think that the comparison is just something that's universally understood. And it's not necessarily about saying, okay, well, I can't have these things because they're bad for my brain. It's more about having not necessarily like a being present while you're dissociating, because I don't want that for anyone, but like an overall consciousness and awareness of what I'm doing right now is still having an effect on my brain, and I should probably, balance it out with other things. And I think balance is really important. I think that one of the biggest things that like I try to remind myself of a lot is like what my life was like when I did have like a 9-to-5 job where I felt like I was on somebody else's time all the time. In like the millennial tech world where these offices are trying to be cool and hip, a lot of times they will play music all the time. It's a very aggressive environment. I don't think they realize how aggressive that environment is for people, and they're like, well, then put on your headphones and you can listen to what you want. I'm like, I want to listen to silence. I freaking love silence. Silence is my gig. And it was just this very invasive, oppressive, that's the word I'm looking for, aggressively oppressive kind of environment to be in, and like recognize that like those environments might not be for you, and that might be why you're feeling like you don't have room to be creative, even if it's from a creative problem solving standpoint in your job. It might be because you're kind of in an oppressive environment. Everybody like deserves to be at their best. Everybody deserves to like be able to tap into their creative potential. And I think that if anybody rolls their eyes at those kinds of needs, like that's a sign that you're kind of in the wrong place. I do think that there is something to be said for like knowing that you're in the wrong place. I think that lack of creativity and lack of space to be creative, if you are naturally like you get a lot out of expressing yourself creatively in your life, which I think everybody probably does if they give themselves a chance, then that's a really good sign. Like there's a lot of signs I feel like when you're in the right place, there's like these little synchronicities, but there are also synchronicities that it's like you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole of society, and like maybe it's time to start thinking critically about what you really want, because you only go around once. Hopefully that helps. Here we have something that we're going to spend a lot of time on. This is the duo dimension zone. You are now entering the duo dimension zone. So this is creamy, smooth, multi-use eyeshadows with luminous metallic shine for cheeks and eyes. Mix and match to create your eye-catching dimensions. So this is from LH Cosmetics, and this, it's called Duo Dimension. These come in 3 shades, I think. It's like there's like a really rich kind of berry. There's like a very desaturated like mauve, and then we have this kind of coral peach color story. And it is, apparently intended to be more of an eyeshadow, and that's what we're going to use it for today. But I think that it is also an absolutely gorgeous blush situation. I do recall this being wildly overpriced though. Hang on, let me see. Y'all, my head is so full of snot right now. Okay, $32 is a little bit wild, but I thought it was like $42. Still, $32 is kind of wild. Not gonna lie, it's a little bit a lot for this. I mean, they're beautiful, but I do think that she needs to go many extra miles on packaging. I'm going to then go in with, these are called Time and Limit. So I'm going in with Time here, which is the deeper of the two, or the more vivid really of the two. And I'm gonna just use that, place it like right there. And that's giving us kind of a spotlight effect, so it blends up. I think that it's a really like smart way to put blushes together though, to do like a more saturated and then a more, blended version of it. So, all right, we're gonna go in on my eyes. I also have a new like sparkly textured eyeshadow liquid from About Face that I'm going to hunt down to give some interest to this look. I know she's around here. I know that she is. Okay, I know that she's around here and we will find her. I'm promising that to myself. But I do want to answer just as far as keeping inspiration for myself. I find inspiration in lack of structure. And that's not everybody's thing. It used to be something where I was very, very afraid of a blank canvas, because a blank canvas meant that I was basically allowed to do whatever I wanted and I didn't have the confidence to do whatever I wanted from a creative standpoint. And that just comes from doing that, like, confidence to be like, I know exactly, you know, what my urges look like when they're, you know, put into something alive. I think that one of the biggest things is to not just like observe other people's art, because truth be told, comparing yourself to other people's art, you're never going to be able to reproduce someone's art. And so if you try and copy their art, it's still going to come out through your lens, and it's still a valuable exercise. Even if you took a class in how to paint light from the dark like Rembrandt, you still wouldn't reproduce a Rembrandt, you know? That to me is freeing. It means that if I borrow someone's idea and just try it out on my own, which, by the way, if you're painting, unless it's watercolor, don't get me started on watercolor, but if you're painting, you know, with acrylics or something like that, there is always scrape it off, let it dry, paint over it, start over, you know, as an option. And I like that. I like that boundlessness. So I'm going in with the deeper shade all over my lid here. And something else that really helps, I know that everybody's always like, touch grass. Like, yeah, touching grass is really, really important. But I think that, like, surrounding yourself with anything that has a life force, and that probably, like, makes something loosen up in your brain already. Just thinking of the words life force. Touch something that has life force in it. Touch another person, touch plants, touch animals, touch even, like, you know, your own art or your own, or like, you know, reading books and things like that, like stuff that actually has life force in it versus screens and stuff like that. And it's not so much because you're like trying to put yourself again on kind of a brain diet. It's more so like prioritizing. Honestly, I feel like you're getting energy from it. Like, you're getting positive energy from touching things that have their own life force to them. Something that someone else put their creative energy into. Be that person or, you know, the universe. Things got coral in a hurry. Yes, they did. But look at that. It's really, really pretty. But I also, like, have these shades elsewhere. It's just kind of cool to put it like that so that, you know, I think to use it all over my face. And if, like, this is a look that you want on a very regular basis, it could be very cool to have, like, a little duo that you literally, like, that's your whole eye look and your cheek look. All right, I'm gonna put this, like, underneath my eyes and just kind of, like, go into a flow state. So let's start talking about another question from y'all. God, my husband has this ritual right now with Simon where when he goes to put him to bed, because Simon's been having a sleep regression lately, they do all of his, you know, nighttime stuff, like brushing his teeth and, you know, getting him ready and everything. But then he goes and just kind of cuddles with him in the guest room for a minute, like gets him kind of, you know, wound down because he's a very, like, high energy kid. I'll put these on the screen because it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. One of the things that Simon has taken to doing is he's very interested in his dad's watch that, you know, it was a business gift. It's like this $700 Garmin watch, you know, that's connected to my husband's Strava, where he does, you know, his running and everything like that. Well, in his sleep, this thing just gets its own ideas. So it's like telling us not only how Simon slept, but also these hilarious apparent runs that Simon's going on in the middle of the night, which obviously he's not because he's in a crib. I don't know why. That is just the funniest thing I've ever seen. So funny. Also, my husband has challenged me to a race today. This is just one of those things that, like, pops into his random freaking brain. He asked me this last night. He goes, do you think if you ran as fast as you could in a foot race, do you think you could beat me if I were running backwards? And I said, yeah, of course. And he was like, no way. I will absolutely beat you. He's very, very fast, but, like, I don't know what it is, but as you get older, you, as a woman especially, and with a child especially, you start to, I always say we have a superpower of being able to see 10 seconds into the future. And it's like this horrible superpower because we're like, yep, and that just happened. You know what I mean? Like your kid falling off of something or just whatever, just inescapable inevitability occurs to you that apparently no other, like, male in the room sees. And for him, it's like he's going to run backwards as fast as he can. I was crying laughing last night at the mental image I got from that, because he's going to absolutely eat you know what. And I said, I will do that as long as I am allowed to film it. And he's like, yes. And I was like, I told him, I'm like, I'm laughing because I cannot shake the mental image of you absolutely eating. And he took it personally for a second, noodled on it, and then he went, I still think I could beat you. And I was like, all right, you're on, dude. Like, you know all of my reservations and you still are game. Like, let's go. So that'll be on the vlog channel. And when I say vlog channel, I mean, it's a membership. It's this channel, but it's in the membership thing. So if you hit like join underneath the video, you can watch for 99 cents. Okie dokie, let's go with some Rare Beauty highlighter, because that's what's going to be on my like cheeks, but also on my eyes. So that's not what they usually look like, is it? Nope, this one came smashed and it's the one that I like the most. So this is the shade Mesmerize, and I'll go ahead and swatch all these for y'all. I might use two, actually. Maybe I'll use more than that. We have Accelerate. Ooh, again, this is like, the inadvertent theme of this video is things that are eyeshadows but double as other things. This is the shade Flaunt. Flaunt. Ew, man, they swatch really beautifully. Then we have Enlighten. Enlighten. Gorgy, gorgy, gorgy. Yeah, I can wear all these as eyeshadows. And finally, Mesmerize, which I had to re-solidify with alcohol. Like, I repressed it. So there we have them. Actually, first and foremost, I pulled this out because this is what I said I was going to use. It took me a minute to find it. So this is the Fractal Eye Paint from About Face in Refract. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, I haven't used it on my eyeballs yet, but it's like somewhere in between Milky Way from Danessa Myricks and the Hindash Color Fluid in Boy Tears. So it's not quite as like wildly steal the show as Milky Way. I'm gonna wipe it off really quickly because it's very similar to both of those in the sense that like once it's down, it's down. And it's also not like goldy champagne the same way that the Hindash one is. So I've been very, very impressed by the matte eye paints, so I'm hoping to love this. Yep, it's very, very similar to Boy Tears, except it's like silver. In fact, it's kind of like, it's not even just silver, it's like silver and gold, like just like Milky Way. Khaki, a pink sparkly eye, groundbreaking. Oh, these are so easy to use. Look at it go, look at it. But there's something so nice when you're wearing not a lot of actual complexion product for your look to still have staying power. And that's what I love about products like this, is like they spread out really thinly. They don't totally like take over, but it's still really long wearing and really committed. I'm gonna use some more. I'm gonna chase down this feeling a little bit. So I have here the About Face Matte Fluid Eye Paint in White Noise, and I'm going to use a little bit of that on, I want to use a brush. I can use it on this, I think. Just a little bit. And I'm gonna highlight my inner corner with it before I put on any of the Rare Beauty highlight, because it's just gonna give a really nice opaque backdrop on, let me tell y'all, any skin tone. These are really awesomely opaque. So I'm gonna even kind of take it onto this like sidewall here so that we end up with kind of a Bjork effect. And so that that like gray pocket on the inside of my eyes is not distracting. So now we're going to open up the Rare Beauty highlighters and play with them. The first thing I'm gonna do is actually use this. They gave me this brush too. All these came in PR. So this is just their little highlighter brush, and I like it very much. And I'm gonna go in with Mesmerize. I'm gonna go tops of the cheeks, outside of the eyes here. I'm not, you know, I said it in my last video, but like I can't really get it up for a highlighter all the time. And so when it's pretty and it's nice, I like it. You know, I just don't wear a lot of highlighter, usually. I like to highlight this little spot. I bothered to pay to get it filled. I might as well put some highlighter there, you know? And then we're gonna go in with Enlighten on like an eyeshadow brush. And that's what I'm gonna use on top of the white so that it has something to stick to, but also it has just a really good opaque backdrop. But I also want to use it just on its own, kind of underneath the brow bone. I'm gonna reiterate something that I got a question about recently because, you know, obviously I make videos. I think it's been very recently that I've said something, and that turns out to not be the case because I just put out so much content, I lose track of time. Someone was asking me, basically, they said, okay, well, I don't have the same facial structure as you, but I do have a similar case of my real estate of my eyes being mostly between my crease and my brow, not huge eyelids, basically. And that's what I have. And they're like, I noticed that you take your shadow way up high. Like, was that a journey for you to like get there? Instead of having, you know, a really broad like brow highlight or whatever, because, you know, it is kind of a courageous thing taking your shadow up that high and without looking like, I think that the comment said something like one of the instructional diagrams on the back of a drugstore eyeshadow palette in the 90s, because they were just like, here, just, you know, do a garage door of blue. And like, most of us don't want that either. So I need like a powder contour moment out here. What do I have out that I can use for that? The new Golden 20s. So I'm gonna just, you know, contour. It's not even gonna be like a wildly cool contour. I'm just gonna use this kind of warm brown. So my answer to that person, and to anybody who, you know, hasn't been here long enough for me to have said this before, yes, it was a journey for me because I realized, like, yes, I'm looking at myself in a mirror, and when I do this, it makes perfect sense to leave like a big wall of highlight right here. But when I look straight on, that takes up more than like half of the actual appearance of my eyeshadow look. And that if I do that, it basically like shrinks down my entire eye even more so, like makes it look even smaller, even squintier, even deeper set. And so to, you know, double check myself like this, you really like don't want a lot of highlight right there. You kind of want to bring the shadow. I'm using this pink right here that's gonna, you know, pull that coral in a little bit more, all the way up, and then practically like push your eyebrows out of the way to get room to highlight. You don't need to like do this big wall of highlight, and that's specific to my eye shape. But the reason that I even knew to do that is because I was like a little frustrated with my own eye looks there for a little while, and I was watching, I just happened to be looking at like tutorials from Wayne Goss from back in the day, and he did one based on like how Kim Kardashian wears her eyeshadow. And I've always, y'all know, that's like the main reason I watch the Kardashians, is because like their faces are like a paint by number on how to make really flattering shapes with makeup. And like, it's educational for me. I just sit there and like absorb their makeup looks. Even if I end up doing a much softer version of what they do, still, it's a very, very good diagram, especially for like my eye shape and stuff. And so I was very interested in that, and I watched him. The first thing he did was take a transition shade all the way from the crease all the way to the brow bone. And I was like, oh, like that looks fine. I was afraid of looking like a garage door, you know, but like it looks great. And so I started doing it, and it took a little bit of courage to, you know, continue to like push the limit on it, but now it looks really, I feel like it looks a lot better. So for like under eye powder, I was going to use, I'm really trying to like this, okay? And it's because I'm trying to like break it apart from the rest of the collection. This is the Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder from that Chantecaille collection from winter, and I do really like it. It's actually very good for like a low makeup kind of look, but I'm afraid that everything else is so iridescent today that this might be the wrong one. I don't know. It's actually really beautiful. I just was really frustrated with this collection because I was like, everything's a highlighter. The blush has no pigment to it, so it's basically a highlighter, and then there's also a highlighter, and then this is also a highlighter. But if I actually had to pick one, I'd probably pick the powder. And I bought it, so, you know, might as well try and like it. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that and also just use it to like blur the eye look a little bit, because I always have like eyebrow stubble. Okay, let's eyeliner, mascara, brows, and then we'll come back and we'll put this lip on and kind of chat about everything. Woo! I think that after I straighten this brow out, we are ready for some lip. I've just been going straight in with this. It doesn't need a liner or anything, and that's very specific because, like, you know, it's just because of my skin tone. This comes in tons of colors. They're so beautiful, all of them. And I happen to really like this one. Look how chill this is. They smell a little bit kind of like coconutty, a little bit. But like, so chill. It's this like silicone-y whipped feeling. And I think it's a little bit mod, you know? It's got something just a little bit unexpected about it. So I do feel like I want like a little bit more complexion. So the good news is, you know, we didn't really powder too much, so I can go back in with a little bit of my Chanel here. And I will probably also mattify just a touch, because I think that one of the biggest things with selective coverage like this is giving as much attention to the different textures and the way that the light hits your skin, giving as much attention to that as you would typically to coverage. Because sometimes that's just what makes things look really strange, is that they're reflective, not necessarily that they're not opaque. So I will use Kosas. I'm gonna use Kosas because it's not super mattifying, and you can tell this is like my go-to because, I mean, look at it. This is like a powder that I never want to live without. I feel like what I'm doing is actually just like painting over all of the kind of like editorialized highlight spots that you would typically see, you know, on a diagram or something. It's just like not where I'm at. And then I feel like we need to kind of pink it up on the cheeks a little bit. So maybe it's not bronzer, maybe it's, oh, hey buddy. Hey, look at that. Need to wipe that off. Maybe it's a little bit more of the blush duo, just on the back of the cheeks, kind of, you know? So here's my beauty pie guy here. Like that. Almost treating the darker coral as like my contour shade. And I feel like highlighter just kind of, it kills the illusion. I'm way bigger of a fan of using a really neon blush as a means of like drawing attention to the tops of my cheeks and stuff like that than I am to a highlight, because I feel like at certain angles the highlight just kind of like blanks the area out. You know what I mean? If you hit that reflection the wrong way, it just looks white. I like it. I like it. I like that you can still see my freckles, and I like that the lip is just kind of muted and, you know, drifting out into the ether a little bit. So also, I cannot put down Thorn from Hindash as my eyeliner. Like every time I think about grabbing another eyeliner, now of course I've chucked it across the room, there it is. Every time I think about pulling out another eyeliner, this occurs to me because it's so much easier and it's so much kinder to eyes that are not necessarily like 20 years old, because it's like I can take a brush and just swipe it and it gets in all the little micro crevices and stuff and makes a really even line really quickly. So much better than trying to like wedge a pencil in there and get it to like, you know, rub into those little lines. Because like, you know, my eyes are a little bit like, I have more creasing on this side than on this side, and this makes it so that like a brush just navigates it really easily because it's just so silky and smooth. So let's chat thoughts on these things, because I feel like most of this stuff is pretty straightforward. These are not huge, like groundbreaking formulas that require some kind of like, you know, dedicated deep dive review. It's just whether or not I think that they're like good or whether I like them. So let's talk prices real quick and final thoughts. Okay, the Rare Beauty Positive Light Silky Touch highlighters are $25. That's not crazy. All of her stuff is, I feel like, priced really well. It's like for every $5 to $8 too much a Charlotte Tilbury product is, a Rare Beauty product is going to do just as good, if not better, a job for $5 to $8 less than you would expect it to be. That's right, I said it. And like, is it an effective highlighter? Yes, absolutely. Am I the person to be ranking highlighters. Not really. I just, you know what I mean? Like, I think of a highlighter almost as like an eyeshadow because they're always so punchy that I don't want to wear them on my face. And so I'm not necessarily the right candidate to be telling you like my preference on a highlighter, but is it a really great, beautiful powder highlighter? Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you got to see the swatches and everything. So you can judge for yourself if you are a highlighter person. There are 6 shades in the Positive Light Under Eye Brightener, and I have the lightest one, which is light, and it's $24. Another one that's just, you know, pretty well priced. I wouldn't call these necessarily color correctors because there's nothing like pink or peach or anything. They're very like skin tone oriented, and for that reason I'm kind of like, eh. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching Audra at Home and they were like, what is the difference between this and a concealer? And normally I would be like, well, obviously, puts on color theory hat, but like, there's no color theory to be had here. It's really just about whether you value a little bit more of like a reflective finish on your under eyes, you know, underneath your concealer, because it's a little bit more reflective. And maybe if you used it alone, like the little bit of pink that's in there might help color correct, but I don't really understand it as a standalone product. I would make it more of like the Charlotte Tilbury Brightening Concealer. You know, I feel like I already own this product already merged with a concealer, and that's more useful to me than this versus something like the, you know, Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector, which is pink. And that pink really sets off my under eye in a way that, I don't know, it's also really nourishing and it actually does some color correction. This doesn't have enough coverage or enough like color theory to it to warrant it being kind of a standalone product to me. But maybe it's, I don't know, does it have like skincare in it? Yeah, flexible coverage, under eyes sheer, like it doesn't have a caffeine in it or anything. Like, if it had caffeine in it and it was like actually like treating your under eyes or like, you know, something really balmy and nourishing, that'd be one thing. But to me, I'm kind of like, it's good, but I don't really understand what it was supposed to do. It doesn't change my life. This little guy, again, $32. It's a little bit wild, but it's a very, very pretty kind of color, especially when you think about something like the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow in Coral. It's not shimmery, but it is, you know, very much kind of channeling this energy. And you think about the price of that, that's like $37, $39. You got like a Makeup by Mario. I think that Creamy Peach does something very similar, but I wouldn't necessarily put it up against this for saturation because these are going to, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's like right in between, basically. So this is the Makeup by Mario, and these are the two from LH Cosmetics. And so this is looking very much like the Rosy Glow in Coral from Dior, and then this is looking like a more saturated version of this. And so, you know, if you're going to build it as kind of like a swish and pop, if you will, then this is definitely like a relevant kind of duo for you. And I think that it works really well as an eyeshadow as well, because it does have a little bit of a satin shimmer to it, but not so much that it's, you know, showing up as like a highlight on my cheeks. And I think that they're really pretty. I think they're intuitive shades. And that Makeup by Mario blush is $26. So this might be a quicker way to get where you're going, but this can be had for much less money. I haven't looked yet, but I'm assuming that the price on the About Face eye paint is the same as the matte one, which would put it at $16 or $18. $16. Ooh, my goodness, it comes in some shades too. I tell you what, they really go the distance on making a bunch of beautiful colors in a formula. It's never this just like preciousness, right? So gorgeous. And again, I liken it very much to the Hindash color fluid in the sense that it can be used, you know, very thinly without taking over the entire look. But this color does remind me a lot of Milky Way from Danessa Myricks, just not quite as like crazy punchy. And as far as that Rare Beauty lip color, it's so comfortable for a matte. Like, I'm just so pleasantly surprised every time I put it on. And also every time I like catch my reflection or something, I'm always like, that's just such a good look. You know, of course I just wiped it off because I blew my nose really, really aggressively. It's not some kind of, you know, freeze down, long wearing liquid lipstick. So it's not going to like pick itself back up when you reapply, and it stays kind of soft, but it also like dries a little bit. It's really nice. I'm kind of trying to like replace my concealer a little bit. There we go. All right, and that's 20 bucks. I feel like that's getting close to what some brands think that they deserve to charge at the drugstore. You know, you go into the drugstore section at Ulta, sometimes they'll want to charge you 20 bucks for a lip color. So this also comes in a bunch of shades. Absolutely gorgeous. 1, 2, 3, 15 shades so far in this. And I mean, some of them are just really, really awesome and out there. And then some of them are obviously like, Rare Beauty does some really wearable shades. Is that everything that I tried today? Yeah, I think that that's everything. I always like it when I can pull something together that is demonstrative of the point that I was trying to make. And I think that the main thing here is for someone who, and I will actually link my little module that I made. I'm working on some color theory basics, color theory 101 kind of videos, but part of that was me putting together this interactive color wheel. And I tried to figure out if I could like actually make something that you could spin yourself. Apparently that's way harder on the internet than I ever would have thought, but I managed to do it in Google Slides where it's just like you can click, everything turns. And when I say everything turns, it's like you sort of know, right? The way that like if you put on a lipstick that is what you think is going to be a your lips but better kind of color and it goes wrong, what color does it turn? Because for me, it's usually like a candy apple red, like a pinky pink. And so we're talking like violet red. And the color wheel is actually, it's borrowed from like a makeup education like curriculum. And so it shows not just the actual undertone color, but also some of the basic like skin tones, like medium and light that would be in that undertone. And so you can start to kind of observe like what it means when you say like, you know, blue as it pertains to skin, because no one's skin is blue. So anyway, I will link that below. It's interactive and that's gonna help you look at your like undertones and then also like what, if you want something to appear more true, essentially like what you can overcompensate with to like correct for it, for something to look more true on your skin. So like a mauve is going to look more neutral on me because I've got the yellow in my skin that's going to counterbalance it kind of thing. So all that to say, I love that like this tonal look came together and doesn't look overdone, but it also really accentuates the just, you know, I have a yellow orange or neutral kind of complexion that leans a little bit golden, and the way that my skin is going to really like latch onto the pink in a coral is the ideal way for me to embrace a very healthy pink cheek or, you know, eye look or a tonal look in this case. So I hope that that is visually valuable and I hope that you just, you know, enjoyed the video. So thank y'all for watching and for hanging out with Dayquil Khaki yet again today. I think my next video is going to be final thoughts on the Makeup by Mario and the Ismea and everything with swatches and everything. So definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. Made it to the end of the video, you might as well hit the notification bell because I have no idea what time I upload. You just don't want to miss it. And I will stick a video right here that I think that y'all will enjoy if you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all so much and I will see you in the next one. Bye.